And we should be live.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our monthly meeting of the LGBTQIA plus Intersectional Rights Task Force of the Human Rights Commission. I'm Mike Waters, the chair of the task force. I live in Ward 7 and my pronouns are they and them, and I will pass it on to Tricarico.
Hi, I'm Tricarico. My pronouns are they and them, and I'm a resident of Ward 2. I'll pass it on to Kathy.
Hi, I'm Kathy. My pronouns are she and her. I am a resident of South Salem. And Kelly, I'm assuming that you're standing in for Gretchen tonight?
I am. My name is Kelly and I'm standing in for Gretchen. My day-to-day, I work in the budget office. So, but I'm really passionate about human rights and I've filled in for Gretchen a few times. She's been very kind to let me do so. So my pronouns are she, her, and I live in Ward 3.
And thanks to Bria hanging out in the background, as always, providing our tech support.
My pleasure.
Did we have any public comment?
We did not.
I didn't think so. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the minutes from our previous meeting? That was our July 28th meeting.
I'm looking now. My computer froze.
It looks like someone's arriving in our meeting. Is that maybe Byron?
It's me, Amelia, a knight.
Oh, hi, Amelia.
Hi, sorry, calling in.
Thanks for joining. It's so great to have you again.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm trying to join by phone. Sorry to be mysterious.
No, that's totally fine.
I'll take a stab at updating the phone number to a name. Amelia, how do you spell your name?
Amelia, Amelia, like the pilot, Knight, Knight, like a knight in shining armor.
Wow.
I love that.
It's a very cool combination of names.
Totally.
Yeah.
Did anybody want to move to approve the minutes from last time?
Yeah, I could make a motion to do that.
And there's only one other person who can second it. So.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Kathy.
All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Okay, great. Well, we have two topics tonight. One is continued discussions on the Safe Spaces project, and the other is Trans Day of Remembrance. In my view, Trans Day of Remembrance is the more urgent topic because it's coming pretty quickly and we've got to get organized around it. So I was hoping we could keep Safe Spaces project, you know, to the roughly the first half of the meeting or less, and then move on to TDOR. Thanks to Kelly and Gretchen, we have some new documents and materials to look over that were sent over to you via email. One is a draft memo to the full Human Rights Commission that would kind of explain our work thus far. The other is a timeline. They also included our original documentation in that email as well. That was the piece that we wrote up earlier, but the kind of overall on the timeline was that there was a kind of a desire to look at maybe launching it around Pride Month of next year, which seemed like a really reasonable timeline and had space in it for all of the steps, I should say, to me and me alone. So this is a time when I'd like to hear what you all thought of the materials so far.
It looks reasonable to me.
I looked at them when Gretchen emailed them out and I didn't have any, I mean, they looked fine to me. I didn't have, nothing really stuck out to me as far as a need to discuss or comment on. I thought it all looked good.
Excellent. There was also a discussion that we had last time around terminology, and Gretchen provided us with a little bit of some links to information around terminology. And was there a specific term that we used in the materials that we were looking at? Maybe we used the word marginalized or something like that.
I think it was conversation around that, if I recall from what Gretchen had kind of mentioned to me briefly.
Yeah, I think Byron had initially brought it up, so I was hoping to have him to have that discussion. So I think at this point, it's kind of keep some of those guidelines in mind as we're drafting this.
Yeah.
But as I look through it, I'm not seeing that. So I don't know if we
Mhm.
changed that because we had talked about it, I feel like a couple meetings ago.
And I don't think I was at the meeting where that conversation first took place, so I'm not sure what it was, if it was specific to something in the materials or just more of a general discussion.
I think it was more of a general thing that we just kind of wanted to be mindful of as we're moving forward. Because I took another quick glance and I'm not seeing that kind of language, but I do appreciate that it was brought up so that we can be more careful about that. Because yeah, it's not, I don't want anyone to feel more marginalized by a project that's supposed to be the opposite, right? And at the end of the day, it's not necessarily for, I think untapped was one of the suggestions. It's not just for untapped communities like we've talked about. This is for the broader community. Like anyone could experience an incident where they're unsafe or needing assistance, and we want to bring that awareness to everyone.
Yeah, the way that I see it worded in the original document is support individuals who may experience bias in the community, which is sort of a doesn't put a label on the individuals at all. Instead says any person who has these experiences would be covered, which I think is probably the direction that we want to take it, because there's so many different ways that people can be discriminated against, and we don't always capture them all in words, do we? So yeah. Well, that's just a good conversation to just kind of continue having then. According to the timeline, our next kind of step is an outreach. Looks like it's an outreach to urban development by city staff. And one thing I really appreciate about this timeline too is just the responsibility that city staff is taking on. Very, very appreciative of that, because as volunteer task force members, you know, we just don't always have all the time to do these things. So I'm really appreciative of that. Any other things we want to talk about with safe spaces?
So just looking at the timeline.
Yeah.
So October would be outreach to urban development, and then November, Human Rights Commission action on work plans. So just in terms of the timing, well, we have one more subcommittee meeting before the full, I guess we would at the end of October.
Yeah, we'll have our end of October. So perhaps, and Kelly, you might be able to help us. Perhaps you'll have done that outreach prior to our October LGBTQIA meeting.
Yeah,
because our meetings are at the end of the month.
Yeah, that would be the hope. Basically, the idea is, you know, those staff are, so that's their day-to-day, entrenched with, you know, all the different businesses and organizations that are in Salem. So we would hope that they would be able to kind of have some sort of general knowledge of rollout and all that stuff, that we would be able to return and say, hey, this is kind of a suggestion that this expert group of people have provided. So that's kind of the game plan.
Okay.
And then it sounds like then we would be able to get it on our Human Rights Commission broader agenda that Gretchen would coordinate that
Exactly.
with Angelo and okay.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Because obviously it's important to the whole commission. So we were thinking of, kind of bringing the whole, as soon as we kind of have the general idea planned, bringing that to everybody.
A group we might consider partnering with at
Yeah,
I've seen put on events is the Radical Free Market. I haven't been able to check it out, but it sounds really, really cool. It's very like community helping community. So the idea is that people just bring stuff that they don't need and put it out and people take it because it's a market, but it's free.
is that separate from the community fridge or is it the same?
I think they might be partnered there too.
Okay.
Because I did hear of other groups. And I would imagine there's probably other like community and action groups that are participating in this that might want to be a part of our Safe Spaces project. Because, I think about safety in kind of a broad term. That could be food security, that could be housing. I mean, that's bigger than the scope of this project, but we could still partner with folks who are in that kind of realm.
Totally.
And I think it'd be cool to connect with them. So I'm hoping to go to the next one. I don't remember when it is. I'm going to check my calendar here. I think the next one is October 9th. So I figured I'd go check it out and then report back at our October meeting.
One thing that isn't captured on the timeline, but is something that we talked about. We had actually people from the Parks Department who came and visited us, and one of the things that we thought would be an important piece would be that the city itself and city-owned properties become designated safe spaces, meaning that those properties would participate in the program, would have signage. Perhaps if it's at a park, it can't be a window decal. So perhaps they would need to actually order signage that would designate the safe space there. But that's a piece that isn't contemplated on the timeline, but is something that I think we had some passion about. We actually had a community member who came and visited and spoke to us about that as well. So, and Amelia has spoken about that as well, was at that meeting with the park. So that might be one thing that I'd like to see incorporated, or where does that fit in the overall timeline is how do we do the same with sort of city owned facilities. Yeah. Library and the parks and places people go, city hall. It's also a really pretty timeline.
When I was making it, I'm like, how do I make this the most colorful thing ever? Purples and blues are just very calming. I'm like, just go with that.
It's very soothing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. So I'll fold that feedback in and give a new version maybe to Gretchen. The thing with the parks, my first thought is I think that's kind of I don't know how much effort and time that would take to do. So in my head, I was like, oh, that should be a nothing burger, but I also don't make the signs in the parks department. So that could actually, maybe they have 12,000 signs ahead of us. So I'll put that as a note because I just hadn't thought about that aspect. So thank you.
Yeah. And I know it's on their radar because they came and spoke with us. So they may have already discussed it even at one of their other meetings. So
right.
Well, super. Well, anything else on safe spaces tonight? This is really exciting work. Well, let us then switch gears and talk about Trans Day of Remembrance. Kelly, you had the date in front of you, and you mentioned the Saturday this year.
Yeah, it's November 20th, so Saturday.
And I don't, we had a brief conversation just offline about whether that would be a barrier. And I don't think that it being on a Saturday is a barrier for that community to participate. for our community to participate. I think people would generally show up. But I wanted to throw that out there around. Is there any concern about it being on a Saturday this year? So then I think the next logical question, given the times that we're in, is we're very likely to be virtual again. Not very likely. We're probably about 100% to be virtual again. Last year's event was really, really lovely. One thing that I noted was a bit of a pain point was that we thought the reading of the names would take a lot longer. And so the event was probably over within 20 minutes. Does that sound about right? And we had some people who logged on late and were upset that they had basically missed the whole thing. We had scheduled it for an hour. So that led me to kind of question whether we want to give any speakers more latitude to say more words, and have the event, kind of fill out a little bit longer. And if there was any other content that we thought would be valuable, or are we just trying to draw out an event and should we just schedule it for a half an hour, is another option. So I like it being an hour because it's important. But that does mean that we need to come up with more content to fill that hour.
Could we maybe partner with like Basic Rights Oregon, to have some conversation about like, here's what you can do? Because like, it's definitely an event where I think a lot of people might be feeling like, gosh, this is terrible. Like, what can I do about it? So they could probably talk about like trans rights in Oregon and maybe causes there. We could also have I like the idea of having our speakers talk longer. Like if they felt comfortable, maybe they could share like, this is what Trans Day of Remembrance means to me, and this is why it's important, and things like that. Because I do agree that 20 minutes seemed really short. It did seem really fast. And I don't know how we pulled that off. That was some top gear efficiency. But I definitely don't want people feeling like they missed out and didn't have time to really do the full thing.
I think the big difference between the virtual meeting and the when we did it in person is literally people standing up and sitting down takes a little bit of time. And so it just felt longer. And then also if the in-person meeting ends early, well, that's fine. You just keep talking, there was a lot of socializing and networking that happened.
Yeah.
And you'll recall that we did it as a broadcast. We did not allow people to join via Zoom. So we didn't have conversation on the Zoom. It was just program. And I imagine we probably, for safety reasons, want to go the same route as we did last year, but that changes it as well. You can't have an interactive conversation, afterwards. So I like the idea of having either Basic Rights or another organization represented that can talk about what to do next.
Mhm.
Yeah. Leave people with maybe a better feeling.
Yeah, because I think you're right about it's just people physically moving that we don't have to do. That makes it go faster. So there's not really a lot we can do there as far as like dragging it out. But adding a little more content, I think, could be helpful.
Yeah.
This may lead or be kind of related to the next task force, so forgive me, but would it perhaps be an opportune time to talk about the Human Rights Commission as a resource for the community? I don't know. That could be something at the end, that is brought up and someone could speak to that. I don't know if that would be appealing, but it might be another avenue to get, the commission as a resource out to the public.
I think it is a good idea. a lot of times with things like this, I worry about something being self-serving.
Yeah,
But the commission is not a self-serving entity. It's an entity that's there to
a
take
resource, right?
of discrimination. I'm sorry, my cat is so distracting right now. It's just animal kingdom up in here. But yeah, I think it could be worthwhile to have, a short bit about the commission. I think that could be really worthwhile.
Yeah,
Okay, now he's pressing buttons on my.
that's awesome. If you go away, we know why. You didn't hang up on us intentionally. The cat's like, you're done.
Yeah, so I really like that idea as well.
Okay.
Last year, did we just have 2 speakers? We had Corey and Jen, is that right? Do you remember? It feels like Corey opened and Jen closed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that sounds right.
And I can check with Corey and see if she's willing. And I think she has Jen's contact information too, to see if they're willing or interested in speaking again. But we can also put out a call for other speakers in the community who might want to say a few words.
And Corey did a poem last year, if I recall, right? Or am I?
That might have been a different year. She didn't do a poem. She read a pretty moving essay, I thought.
Oh, an essay. Okay.
And it was, it was about more than just trans people, but about the intersectional nature of discrimination, it was really powerful, I thought.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Corey's was a little bit more direct and very substantive, and Jen's was a little more inspirational. And so we put Corey's at the beginning, I remember, because it had that flair to it. And then Jen's we put at the end for some of the reasons we talked about earlier, to kind of leave people with a better feeling.
If you would be willing, Mike, to reach out
Yeah,
because then
I'll reach out to both of them.
and then we can kind of start formulating a night, of speaking and length. And if they want to write anything additionally, it's a new year. There might be some more insight now with COVID and the impacts of that on the community and mental health. So, they might have something new, and we can kind of see, okay, it's going to take each of them 5 minutes to speak and begin to formulate a night.
And then where did we get our readers last year? Was it just us?
I think it was an all call. If I remember, I think it was mostly commissioners and then friends and the community. But I think it was mostly commissioners,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. I think Corey as well.
Yeah, there were a couple members. I think Snarfy joined us,
Yeah.
and Rowan.
Did Rowan join? That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so I can ask them both again.
That would
I
be
can put out
great.
an all call and see who else wants to read names.
That would be great. And I know Gretchen has a list of the names. I know that they don't do the official release until, pretty much right up to the day. But I know that we can pull that unless somebody else wants to pull it. That's totally fine.
I want to say that Corey organized it for us last year. Because it kind of comes in a weird format.
And I know there was conversation about this, like Spanish, maybe having a Spanish speaker do the Latin.
That was one of the reasons we had Corey there, was that she speaks good Spanish.
Yeah. So that also, I mean, I know it's a lot to ask of her, but if she is willing to take that on or would like to, that would be so amazing. Otherwise, we can ask maybe another commissioner who might be fluent or able to speak,
I also speak Spanish.
Oh, you do? That's great.
Yeah.
One thing I remember we did last year, or we tried to do, but then it got messed up right at the beginning, and it was a happy accident, was we were not going to call out the locations. We were going to call out the location. We were going to say the location and then do all the names, but our first speaker called out the location. So then everybody just followed suit. So they would say the name, location, name, location, name.
Yeah.
Location. We actually have to do that. I think we discovered because it
At
would
the
have been
time.
even much shorter
Right.
if we hadn't called the location. So,
Right. That's okay. That's great.
so we'll remember to do that this year. What did we do? What did we do about candles? Did we just light candles in our own homes?
Yeah.
I think so. I remember watching the event and I'm trying to remember the details and I can't. I remember it being short, but that's all I remember.
I remember
Yeah.
holding a candle forever, and that was such a terrible choice because then I
Because
was
you held it?
committed. Yes, I was committed to holding this thing on camera. And I was like,
Yeah, no, get a candle in a jar.
yeah, next time I need to like have it behind me or something where I'm not like, and then I was like, I can't put it down. Like, then I'm not holding the candle.
Do you remember because I vaguely remember the conversation and I don't know if we ended up having candles for the community, if someone needed to come pick, that was a discussion at some point, whether that actually happened.
We did
we
not.
had
We
some
talked about it and
Because everyone has a candle is what I think.
it was logistically very weird to do.
Yeah. And City Hall is pretty much, I mean, we're open, but getting people into the office and all that maybe was also a concern at the time.
Yeah. Now, 2 years ago was the year that we moved it to Center 50 Plus, and we had to get electric candles because we couldn't
Oh.
light candles inside Center 50 Plus. That would have
Y'all, we
been.
don't want to burn down that facility, guys. We can't do it.
Yeah. Okay, so what I have as action items is for me to reach out to Corey and Jen.
Yep.
And see if they're interested in speaking again. Tricarico, you're going to reach out to Snarfy and Rowan and maybe a couple other in our community.
Yeah.
We need, I think Byron has typically done the flyer for us. So I can reach out to Byron. If Byron can't do the flyer, I can do it. Flyers are kind of my thing. So I'll message Byron about that as well. And we'll try to get the flyer out, pretty darn quick. And what did we do? Did we just put the YouTube link right on the flyer? Is that what we did?
Yeah, I think we did.
Because you can get it ahead of time.
Yep.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do like a QR code so people can scan it really quick too.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
I
Good
can do
idea.
this.
That's fancy technology. I don't know how to make a QR code.
can do
There's
this.
generators online. It's like ridiculous.
Give it a Goog.
easy. Yeah, just Google it.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
slash
it's
whoever
gonna be
designs our flyer if they know how to do it. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was like, I have
and if-
Bria here from IT because I'm a mess. So QR code is a whole new
Yeah,
world.
if Byron designs the flyer, I'll make sure he has a QR code. And if I design the flyer, I will put a QR code on it.
One thing that I would recommend if you're whichever YouTube link that you use or develop a QR code to, I would go to whatever the generic city channel is that you're going to use, because we only broadcast one live event or meeting per channel at a time. And if for some reason there's a misconnection where they can't connect to that specific meeting that was scheduled ahead of time, it makes it hard for users to find. And it's a lot easier just to say, go to this channel, because usually the live event at the time will be the first thing they see. Just a suggestion.
Is that what we did last year? We linked to the channel.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's what we did.
I'm
I
not-
remember
I'm not
YouTube was
sure.
on there.
Okay.
Thank you, Bria, for your expertise.
I wouldn't call it that, but you're welcome.
And then once we figure out for the flyer how many we want, and then if we want it on like an astro bright color or anything fun, like a neon green or something really attentive, just make sure to let us know so we can get that going with our copies and everything like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think for me, the primary driver of the design though is how it gets shared online.
Yeah.
And maybe making something really colorful for city Facebook page would be kind of ideal with a QR code on it, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. That totally works. And last year, I believe Tricarico, did you deliver a bunch of flyers around town?
I did, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to do
You're
that.
having a moment behind me.
It's cute. I was loving the cat nuzzling you. That was great.
It seems like the cat is in danger right now, but it's actually the dog who's in danger.
I feel like your cat takes no prisoners.
No.
Mhm.
Hey, let's settle down. There have been many times where I've heard the dog crying and barking and whining from either upstairs or downstairs, and it's because he's not being allowed to pass the stairs.
I love that. That's amazing.
And he's been kept. Hey, let's simmer down. I'm in a meeting. This is all really good. In terms of getting a potential speaker from Basic Rights or another statewide organization, do we have any contacts there? Is that something we can maybe leverage even Gretchen for?
Yeah, I'll ask Gretchen. I feel
Okay.
like Gretchen has a contact everywhere. She just is the woman. She just knows everything. So I'll make a note in my minutes. And when I talk to her to debrief, that would be kind of ideal.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, we are fortunate that TDOR is toward the end of the month because we will have our October meeting for a little bit more planning, and we can handle some details via email as we get closer into the event. But I feel really good about everything we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts related to this one? Well, seeing none, do we have any member remarks and announcements?
Nothing that I planned ahead of time, no.
Well, very good. We have a awareness meeting, and it's all the same people, most of the same people that are on this call. So if you want 25 minutes back to grab a snack or enjoy yourself, I think we took care of business tonight. Sounds really good.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. See you soon.